Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Talk That Talk. I'm Adriel Ramirez, and I'm your host in this video. And with me, as always, is Mr. Alex Martinez. Say hello to the
What up?
people, Alex.
What up? What up? What up? What up?
And in today's episode, we are reviewing Netflix's Spaceman, directed by Johan Rennick, starring Adam Sandler, Carey Mulligan, Kunal Nayar, and Paul Dano. So, in this epic space adventure, if you want to call it that, Adam Sandler is dealing with a little bit of loneliness. He is on halfway through, I guess, 6 months into a 12-month period of trying to get to this ominous pink cloud that is visible from Earth that has now been there for 4 years. Let's dive right into this one, Alex, and I'll let you get started with what you like.
Okay, man. You can't go wrong with a Sandman movie. You know what you're getting out of a Sandman movie. Heartfelt connection. It's different from 51st Dates and Wedding Singer. The timeless Sandler classics, the grown-ups movies. This one is a more serious tone, kind of like Uncut Gems, kind of like Hustle. We get this commander who's an astronaut that's going on a solo mission to this galactic cloud. You could call it Galactus if you want, for those of you Fantastic Four guys. Coming into our atmosphere, it's right behind Jupiter, and it takes him about half a year to get over there, and he's still not there yet. So, being alone, solo mission, he's leaving his whole family behind. He's doing it for Earth and all that stuff. And right off the bat, you get the loneliness, you get the routine of him doing his daily stuff, and it looks kind of boring. If I had to do that for a whole 6 months, it would be kind of boring and it would get to me. But for those of you that travel and you realize you're out there alone, you don't have anyone to hang out with, and all you could do is call back home and check in on home, and they're checking in on you, and you don't really have nothing to say. Yeah, I'm just working. Like that's it gets to you at a certain point. Like even though you have communication, even though you have that connection back home, you're still gonna miss home. You're still gonna end up leave, even though you know you're going back, like you're still gonna end up missing it. And that was one of the biggest things and themes that they were tackling, the loneliness and the depression you get from being separated from other human contact or just anybody in general. But I don't want to ramble on. Did you have any pros that you want to hit?
Yeah, so I think right off the bat, I think what Adam Sandler brings to the table right away. The way he acts, I feel you're always able to feel him no matter what kind of movie he's in. Obviously, he's well known, like you said, for his comedies and other things like that. But at the same time, I feel like his dramatic pieces and stuff like this, I think he does really well in. You're able to feel how lonely he is throughout the whole movie. I think that's one thing that the director was trying to implement in every stage of this movie. So like when in the beginning, when you're before we were introduced to Hanush, and you see that there's any issues between Adam Sandler and his wife, there's still automatically that disconnection right away. That he's trying to get in contact with her, she's not picking up. First they try to make it seem like it's malfunctions that are kind of going on with the ship because of how so far away he is. But then,
Yeah.
as the movie progresses, and then we are introduced to Paul Dano's character Hanush. That does come into a play where you see everything's not as good as it seems, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, Adam Sandler's basically leaving home to go try to be a hero for his country, when in reality you see things like later on in the movie again, you start seeing like this through line of where Adam Sandler is basically in the position that he's in because he's trying to right the wrongs of his father. So there was this one part that Paul Dano's character had said and that like really stuck with me, and that kind of really, like I said, just really resonated with me, was that Adam Sandler's character Jakob was living for the dead, not living for the people that were alive. And when he said that, I was like, dang, like you don't really realize how like what it is that you're doing until the moment's already passed you, right? So like he's doing this thing,
Yeah.
becoming an astronaut. He's in the middle of this space race with the North Koreans, and he's trying to do this thing great. And from the outside, it looks great, very noble, sacrifice, you're doing good. But really, deep down inside, he's doing it because he's trying to cover up some scars that his family's left behind, which now is in return creating new scars for his current family because he's rejecting his wife. His wife is pregnant and she needs him, but now he's rather, instead of being there for the whole pregnancy of his child or maybe even the birth of his child, he's going to be alone in space to go get to this cloud first, right? So I thought Adam Sandler's acting really drove that home. And then one thing that I think that I also want to really kind of put out there too is I can't really emphasize how good of not even just voice acting. Paul Dano is like he's such a good
Yes.
actor. From when I first he got put on the map for me the very first time, or when I really was like, who's this actor? Was that movie Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal? When they suspect him of
Yeah.
taking the little girls and everything. So again, I
Yeah.
don't even think he had so many lines in that movie, but just the
Nope.
way he was able to act in that movie. And then
Yeah.
more recently, I love his portrayal of the Riddler and the Batman. So just he is just a phenomenal actor. And then even this one, you don't ever see his face, but just the way he's able to project his voice, the way he's able to, the inflections of it, everything
Yeah.
about it was just so like like it really made that CGI character that Adam Sandler was working with the whole time. So basically, he was by himself. It
Yeah.
really felt that he was in the room with them, even though he was, Adam Sandler was like acting with like a tennis ball, probably. So I felt like that's another plus. And then for me too, and I want to say the last thing I want to get on because I don't want to ramble either, but
Yeah.
I think one of the other pluses to this movie is something that they didn't do was towards the whole third act, or I guess the end of the second act into the third act of the movie was Hanush was explaining that the cloud, to his species was known as the beginning. So I thought the whole time that they introduced that was I thought they were gonna get because they're in there this time. It was a big buildup of how Adam Sandler was neglecting his wife and his marriage had a lot of cracks in it, and then
Yeah.
you get some, that phrase of the beginning. So I thought once they got to that cloud, it was going to reset back to when he first met his wife and he was going to live his life all over again. So the fact that they didn't do that, I was like, okay, we dodged that bullet. We didn't
Yeah.
have to, this wasn't like a whole learning thing, and he gets to, go back to the beginning because he already did one of those movies. So
Yeah.
I don't want that. So I felt like it was an addition by subtraction by not doing it. So I was just like, okay, I'm glad we avoided that. So this was a movie in and of itself. But that's good. Do you have anything else you want to add before we go on to any negatives?
No, like literally when before you said that, one of my negatives was gonna be, I was like, it was leaning towards it because the little spark that got back to Earth, I was like, dude, Click did it first. Please don't end this movie with, oh yeah, it's kind of like Interstellar where he goes in at this point and he'll come out and he'll be back in the beginning. I was like, don't do that again. Like Adam, it was a good ending in Click and I appreciate it for Click because it made sense. But I just really didn't want that ending. And then, like you said, I was really glad they didn't do that ending, and it ended pretty well for me. Other things I want to hit on was just Hanush's character himself and just the build-up of characters throughout the thing. Like, we always felt the division between him and his wife in the beginning, but then his wife went to go see her mother, and then different people started going up to talk to his wife, and then you get the flashbacks in his mind, kind of like that Snape and
Mhm.
Harry Potter thing where he gets inside of his memories and stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to see that progression of like, oh, this isn't just because of this trip that she's leaving you or ignoring you. This is because you have a pattern of doing this, and it just hits on that stuff that a lot of us could relate on, where you have that workaholic spouse that is saying, "Hey, I'm doing this for us. Like, I'm trying to provide a life for us. I'm trying to save humanity and all that stuff." Interstellar celebrated a similar thing and theme where he left his daughter who said don't leave and all that stuff. He said I'm doing this for us, and then that distance creates that divide in the character that it takes her like 20, 30 years to figure out the answers that her father was trying to send back to that fifth dimension, whatever.
Yeah.
Similar to this one where he's not realizing that while it's going on, and some of us neglect that with our spouses. So let's pause. Buy your girl flowers. Appreciate your spouse. Buy your man flowers, okay?
Mother
Let's
Day's coming
appreciate it.
up.
Yeah, Mother's Day's coming up, all right? But don't be shy to get your dude something too. So appreciate your spouses, right? But the theme of, hey, like he was neglecting her, but he didn't realize it until he was already far away and he started going into his thoughts. Like, and throughout this movie, I'm like, is this freaking spider real or is it not? Like the whole time I'm like, because they can't see it because there's no cameras in the freaking whole spacecraft.
Yeah.
All of them are damaged conveniently, right? And they can't sense it. So I'm all thinking, how the hell did Spider get into the ship then? Like I was like, where did it get in? It just
Hmm.
opened an airlock, closed the airlock, and somehow ended up getting in there and snuck around perfectly so he could like get into the freaking restroom pantry, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it made no sense, but that's more into the cons level. But as far as that, the buildup of the loneliness, the buildup of the of the toll on their relationship. So you saw why there was so much of a divide, and it was more of like that Snape Harry Potter scene where he's like, "I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with you," and finally it's like at the end, that third act where he's like trying to like, "Oh, I'm trying to contact back home," and he's like, "No, we're gonna figure this out," and then he like hangs up the phone, and he's like goes into his head like forcefully, and then he's like, "Oh shit, this is really what's going on with you."
Yeah.
Um, and then that scene where he's like, "Don't leave me." It reminded me of like Castaway. Wilson, I'm sorry, Wilson. Yeah, like I was like, no, I was like, not the feels again, because
Yeah.
that was the peak of Adam Sandler's performance when he was all alone and he realized, yo, this one guy that was keeping me from feeling alone anymore and feeling exhausted. Because you notice the freaking toilet noise wasn't bothering him anymore. He just
Hmm.
classical music now, like he was zoning it out because he had a companion now, and now he's losing his companion, and now he's gonna lose it. He's not gonna be able to go on this mission. So I think that was a good performance by him. Both actors, honestly, as far as Prones, I'm pretty sure I'm probably missing some stuff, but build up was really well.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and transition to the negatives of this movie. Throw a little bit of a twist. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off with the negatives, only because I don't feel like there's really too many, and I don't want to try to stall it out too much. So I think I may have maybe like two kind of big cons, I guess, that I kind of want
Yeah,
to discuss. First one being you kind of mentioned already, where so I got a lot of click vibes in it, right? So where instead of Christopher Walken, being his travel spirit in that, and then click
yeah,
in this movie, is a spider, with Paul Dano. So he had his little spirit guide that was navigating him, telling him like, hey, don't wish your life away, hey, appreciate what you have in front of you. So I felt like that through line of it was very heavy, which to this movie's credit, like we were talking about backstage, was it is based off a book, so it does have other source material. So you can't.
yeah,
I'm not going to go as far as to say that he just reskinned Click, because like I said,
yeah,
it has obviously its own source material,
yeah,
but obviously there's going to be a lot of ties and connections to it with Adam Sandler being in both of them. They have the same metaphor of you know don't live in the future, live in the now, right? So there's like a lot of things where that it had where like they were eerily similar, right? So
yeah,
that was one issue that I think I had. The second one was being where although the movie was well acted, the CGI was good. Obviously there are some flaws, like when a human character has to interact with something that's not there, there's gonna be some things that don't look right. Obviously when he hugs the
yeah,
spider a couple times, it doesn't look like he's actually hugging anything, but
yeah,
that's to be expected. But the only other really thing that I had was that even though the ending, I guess, gives you a small like sense of like if the problem was solved, I felt like they didn't really. I mean, I don't want to say that they could have. I don't know what they really could have done to kind of did the problem resolution, but I felt like there really wasn't any. Because like he was floating out in space, and then I don't know. It doesn't really say how long he was out there, but conveniently North Korea was right there to go save him. To pick him up, put him in
yeah,
their ship. But then, off side note too, why did they have so many people on their ship and then he didn't? Maybe that because the Czech is a smaller country and everything, but that was just weird the way that he was by himself and they had a whole ass team on their ship. But besides the point. But like, and then he gets to make a freaking like long distance call from their ship to
yeah,
Earth, and then get to be like, hey, would you love me in the end? Like, would you still love me in the morning? That type of
yeah.
thing. And she
Forever
was
and
like,
ever, babe.
maybe. She didn't really like say yes or no. So I just felt like, I mean, maybe it's being nitpicky, or maybe just like I maybe because I didn't dislike the movie, I enjoyed it. So maybe I'm just like overlooking a lot of other flaws, but I felt like the fact that it didn't have like a clear cut resolution to the problem of okay, did he actually change, or is he just saying this because he's lonely, and then when he gets back, everything's gonna go back to normal, or even if he does get back and wants to change and is gonna change, is she really gonna accept him back, type of thing,
Yeah,
and maybe that was the point of the ending, that maybe I just was not smart enough to get, and it went over my head, but I just felt like it needed a clear cut, like all right, I realized I messed up. I've been a crappy ass husband.
yeah,
My child's not even here, and I'm already a bad father because I'm already abandoning them. So I'm already being bad, but hey, I'm willing to fix it. But it was just more like a you kind of just seen like little snippets of that as it went. Because even with when he was with Hanush, like when he was first there, he was just like, "Hey, you're not allowed in this room. You're not allowed in this room either." So even though he was lonely and he felt lonely, he finally
Yeah,
got a companion and was like, "Nah, leave me alone. I don't want to mess with you." And then when he decides to leave, he was like, "No, wait, come back. I need you," which is again another big metaphor for
yeah.
his relationship. But yeah, I don't want to like I said, I want to ramble on about those two things that I had. So let's go on to you, sir. What negatives did you have for this movie?
Well, like you said, it has sources from other things, but I did feel like I was watching Click in space at certain points.
Yeah,
Uh, their whole line of "you and me, wherever you go, I go. Wherever I go, you go." It just reminded me of that little note that he wrote to his girlfriend at that bar. Will you still love me in the morning,
yeah.
forever and
See,
ever, babe? And then like little things as far as like that galactic, like you obviously can't explain space magic, as Thor said. Like we don't know how it works, but like how does that little freaking dust particle get all the way down to Earth? And she's like, Jacob. And I'm like, like, okay, Bella, over here from Twilight, just like knowing that that's your husband trying to talk to you, like, and then just the little that little fourth act scene where he's going through it with the spider. I was just like, this is kind of corny. It's like, yeah, like, is the spider sick? Is it not? Is this like, is this him dead or something? Or what's really going on? Like, if he didn't get saved, I feel like it would have been a more impactful movie. Like him just saying, all right, I appreciate her, and her just knowing, hey, my husband's gone, but like, he's gonna carry on and all this stuff, like, with that connection or something, you know? But the whole him getting back in contact with the Koreans, I don't want to say if it's North or South, because if I'm being honest, I think South Korea would have been out there, but we're not getting political here. And to help the American out, like, I don't know if North Koreans are gonna help us out, but anyways, as far as that one, him getting saved on that one, that what do you call it, God's hammer type thing, like, it just felt really out there. It felt really unnecessary and all that stuff. It wasn't an ending I kind of agreed with. Um, and especially with the Manoush's character, right? Like as soon as he snapped on him while like touching him, I felt like that was gonna be the moment where like, okay, we're gonna see the dark side of this dude. Like,
yeah,
he's hung out with this dude so much that he got the evil side of depression, that aggressive side of depression, you know? And he started gaining human emotions by hanging out with this guy and studying this guy. And you saw that he gave him like a little reality check, and then he's like, there's not a problem with humanity. There's a problem with you. Like, this isn't
yeah,
all humanity. This is you. This is what you're doing. And I feel like as a society, we need to like have that reality check, and like, if the spider was real or not, have that self-reflection of saying, hey, this isn't just, oh, this is just how things are. Yeah, like those horoscope people, oh, that's I'm a Virgo, that's how
yeah.
I
That's
am.
how
Like,
I am.
it should be that self-reflection. It's like, hey, this is how I am, but this is how I'm gonna get better. This is what I'm gonna work on. I'm taking this person for granted. And when he's going through the space thing, like, see, he so happens to have his like life flashing where he sees his wife for the first time, and he's having that flashback and seeing her, and it's like the beginning, but the beginning of what your relationship, the beginning of like when you were
Mhm.
younger, you had that flashback where he's like in his father's like shack thing, and like he sees Manoush again, and they're all like reflecting on life, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't really get this. It's like, is this beginning or of everything? Like, the clouds never really explained, but again, we're never gonna understand space magic. But I just felt like in Interstellar, they were like, hey, this is like the fifth dimension type thing, that where it
Yeah,
was really explained into depth. These people from a far distant dimension was like, hey, this is how we communicate and try to fix things, and we're using this to help you. The cloud wasn't explained in that depth, and I feel like that was a real big letdown. They just said, hey, this is a magic cloud, you can't capture it, you can't study it, like, this is just
yeah,
a magic cloud that it's the beginning for my tribe. And I was like, I really want to know more about the tribe. I really want to know more about the little maggots that were eating them from the inside and stuff. And I was like, probably not going to get that in a second film. I don't think this is going to have a second film. I thought this
mhm.
was just hit a theme, hit the impact. It's not going to be like his other movies where he's gonna get a second Spider film. He's not gonna be Spider-Man 2 with it. He's not gonna get a little Aragog cameo.
Yeah,
So we'll see how it goes. He's gonna go back home. But yeah, like that those just the space cloud was my biggest con, and then just having too much similarities to Click, where it just didn't hit for me. I thought it was a really good film. I'm not gonna say it wasn't, but it was just like they could have done a lot more. And as good as Adam Sandler was in this film, I felt like they could have got someone that would been more impactful on those scenes as far as an astronaut goes, you know.
All right, so you've heard our pros, you've heard our cons. It's time to get into some ratings. Alex, based off what was good and what was bad, how would you rate this one, sir?
So I will say, as far as character development, I think this is probably the best film that we've reviewed, where the character was developed and we got the ending as far as the character's arc that we needed. Like it was built up perfectly. Give or take, there wasn't that many jokes and all that stuff to ruin this character development. There wasn't that much plot going around except the main plot. Um, so if by my honest judgment, I probably give this movie, I want to say a seven. Yeah, I put it over the last couple of films that we've done. Still not over Godzilla. Godzilla's still up there, but just off of just watching it as a movie and not comparing it to the other movies, but compare just judging it as a movie itself, it's a seven. The reason it doesn't get those other 3 points is just like there's that magic cloud and the similarities to other movies. I can't say this was impactful enough for me to say, hey, this was a good movie, go watch it and all that. If you're saying, hey, is there anything to watch on Netflix? Oh, that one's pretty good. Like I'll say I'll let you watch it. But as far as like, oh, go watch this right now, guys. Like Adam Sandler fans don't hate me, but it's good. It's good enough to watch. But it's not something like I understand why it goes to Netflix. Like
Mhm.
it's not gonna be doing super well in theaters.
Yeah. So I think I would have to agree with you. I'm a bit lower, but I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. It did take me a couple sittings to kind of to watch it a little bit though. So I felt like maybe that I think that's what kind of impacts my scoring. I think is not being able to sit through it in one sitting, rewatchability, the fact that like I said it had too much to do with Click, even
Yeah.
though like I said it has its own source material, but it was too close to it. But
Before
I
you
think
before you say anything else, let me ask you, if it wasn't Adam Sandler, would you be comparing this movie to Click?
no, not at all. That movie would not
That's
even
that's
have
that's
come into my
that's
head.
what I'm thinking. That like if it wasn't for Adam Sandler being in this movie, like if they would have gotten someone else, I would never have compared this to Click.
Yeah, so I think I think you're onto something there.
Yeah,
But because he's in there, like I think the movie suffers from it, unfortunately.
yeah.
But like you said, I think that's why it is on streaming because I felt like they maybe they knew there would be too many comparisons like that. That's why I didn't go out to the theaters. But I will say, even though I'm being a little bit overly harsh on it, I feel like I have enjoyed it more than some of the other movies. I definitely enjoyed it more than Roadhouse. I enjoyed it more than Ghostbusters. Not more than Godzilla. Godzilla's still reigning supreme right now.
Of all reviews.
Yeah. So and then I think I gave what I think I gave Civil War like a 6.2 ish, somewhere around there,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere around there. I enjoyed it more than Civil War, so I think I'm
Okay.
gonna give
I
it
was
like a
about to say if you say this
yeah,
is
no,
worse than
no, no.
Civil War,
I'm gonna give it a good 6.5,
okay.
but it's definitely one of those movies like how you said where if people are asking me what to watch based on because they just finished their favorite series just finished or they're caught up on all their movies, this will probably be one that I'll eventually end up recommending. It's not like it's a bad watch. It's just one of those ones where I feel like you can probably put other streaming movies ahead of it before you get to it, but it's still worth at least one watch. So for that, I would say a 6.5, out of 10.
Yeah, I probably send it to all my friends that are in long distance relationships or something, or just like my homie treating his girlfriend bad. I'm like, hey, watch this movie, learn a thing,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. There's a message in there for you. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like, oh, you like Adam Sandler? Let's go watch this. Let's drink some beers and watch this. And then he's gonna be like, bro, change this. I was like, nah, bro, you gotta learn something. I'm your Hanoosh.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we go ahead and get on out
I
of here?
think I think we're good, man. Just
All
love the
right. Well,
Sandman.
thank you guys for joining us in this one in episode 5. We're already on episode 5. Thank you guys for going on an epic space adventure with us. This is Talk That Talk. I'm Adriel Ramirez. That's Alex, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.